Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Psychedelics Today. Joe Moore here. We are joined by Laura Guzmán, and we are very excited to dig in to talk about mycology, especially from the Mexican perspective, and learn about some Mexican species maybe, and other really interesting things going on. So thank you for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. I am very
Absolutely.
excited to talk about that.
Yeah, great. And right now you're at the Telluride Mushroom Festival, and you just got off stage. What was that panel?
Well, it was very interesting. At the beginning, we didn't know everybody what is going on, but then they told us that it was answering questions. At the
Mm,
beginning, nobody dares to question, and then our good times started, and then many questions. So it was very interesting. And with
mm.
the help of Juliana Forsi, it was very smoothly the
That's wonderful.
the panel. Yeah.
I've been wanting to get her on the show for years after I saw her at Telluride years ago. Someday. Um, so to dig in, so you're a mycologist, you work at a university, and what is the work of a mycologist? What do you do daily at the university?
Well, daily I made a lot of administrative work that I hate, but leaving that behind, for example, you want to study one group of fungi, you have to go to the field in the rainy season. You have to to pick up the mushrooms, and then to take off to the lab, and to take in mind that if you collect 1 hour, you need at least 1 hour to work with the mushrooms in the lab, to take the fresh notes and chemical reaction and everything, because sometimes people think that to collect mushrooms for the university is only to collect mushrooms and that's it.
Mm,
No, they forget that there is a lot of work to do in the lab, and if you have not experience, you maybe have, if you collect 1 hour, you have to take 3 or 4 hours to process all your mushrooms, to take notes and to describe, take photographs, etc. So then that we do that, we dry the mushrooms, and well, it depends. If the picking up was only a day, we return to the lab. But if we are in a longer field trip, we take dryers to dry our mushrooms in the field. But I prefer, well, it's too close to the place where I live to make only short field trips,
mm,
to work better in the lab with more time and more implements that you have there, no?
mm,
And then, well, you can look at the mushrooms at the microscope in case you need it to see spores, cystidia, and many things. I love to do microscopic work.
mm.
Is one of the best. Well, I prefer to collect them, but to do microscopy is very
Hmm.
nice. And then also, I love to search in the literature, to write, and to make all your research accessible in a paper.
Mm,
That's also a very wonderful part of the
mm.
work.
It's amazing. Um, I think I want to be a mycologist. Uh, so, can you tell me a little bit about your father's work? He's at the world authority on psilocybe. Like, what does that mean? And could you give us just a little bit of an understanding of what he was doing there?
Yes, he started working with psilocybe when he was very young. He was studying at the university when he was hired for the chemical company, and then he met Rolf Singer in the field collecting mushrooms, and he learned most of the mycological work from Singer, collecting psilocybe in the field. So it was for him a very good opportunity to decide what to do in biology, to
Mm.
become a mycologist, and it was everything around psilocybe. I don't know how to pronounce psilocybe. I don't know. I hear that
I was having
everywhere,
that discussion with Christina earlier.
everywhere
Yeah, we don't
pronounced
know.
different.
Yeah.
So in Spanish we say psilocybe, but here I heard psilocybe, and psilocybe. So it's very difficult for me.
Yeah, that's great. So just a lot of categorization, a lot of really great work. So are there are there a lot of unique Mexican species?
No, not many unique species. Maybe I don't remember, but maybe like two or three species, like Psilocybe meridionalis, is only found in Mexico until now. We don't know.
Mm,
But many are shared with, for example, Psilocybe astecorum is present also in Canada and the US, or Psilocybe zapotecorum is also present in South America.
mm,
So many species are shared. They don't distinguish borders, so it depends more on the type of vegetation and the climatics or weather conditions. So I think that there are not many endemic or specific species to Mexico.
yeah, great. And are they? So I guess for listeners, these are largely psilocybin containing species, like
I don't
large.
know.
So the individual species of psilocybe, is that how you said? Um, they all contain psilocybin, the molecule, in certain degrees, or is that not clear yet?
If they have the same quantity in all the species, do you,
Oh no,
that's
just does it exist? Just like do they have it? Not necessarily quantity.
Ye- yes, well, it varies depending on the species. Some
Mm-hmm.
species can have more psilocybin, and others can have less psilocybin, and not only psilocybin. They have another kind of alkaloids like
Mm,
beocystin and norbeocystin. But the more common and the more known is psilocybin, that when you eat the mushrooms converts in psilocin.
mm-hmm.
So, and also it depends on the size or state of the mushroom. If it is young, the psilocybin is more concentrated than if it is mature or more or bigger, because the basidium grows with water, and so the psilocybin is going to be less concentrated in more mature basidioms or in bigger basidioms than in a bottom or in a very young basidium.
Mm. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And what what is the basidium?
Oh, sorry, the basidium is the the mushroom that you see, the mushroom that you ate, is the basidium. Is a structure that produce spores. The fungi, the true fungi, is a mycelium that grows in the soil, in the trunks, in the wood, is the true fungi. And then when it produce the sporums, and one time of sporums in Basidium micota, that is the
Mm,
group of the Psilocybe, is the basidiums. So it's the thing that we eat is the basidium, that it is not the true fungi, is a part of the true fungi.
right. Yeah. I I forget when it clicked for me, but I call it the reproductive organ of
Mhm.
the larger organism, so that it's just interesting to make that differentiation finally for me. So our audience is more psychedelic focused, not necessarily mycology. So we'll just come back to some basics once in a while. But this is awesome.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It's good. I forgot that.
No, it's wonderful because I've wanted to be a mycologist for a long time, just never pulled the trigger.
Ah,
So
really?
yeah, I love it. I love it. I've
That's a
been to Telluride so many
shame.
times. Yeah. Um, so this not exactly an following question, but we'll try. Are there cultures that use psilocybin that aren't as talked about? Did anyone use it differently or in a unique way to how we typically hear about it?
I think that they do, but I still don't know. I think we know lots about Mazatecs, is
Mm.
a indigenous group
Mm-hmm.
where Wasson ate for the first time. So we know not a lot, really, but
Mm-hmm.
we know more about this indigenous group. But I have now a PhD student that she's finishing her PhD, and now he's
Mm.
in a postdoc. Well, she's starting, I hope, the postdoc, and she's going to work with exactly with this, to look at the difference of many indigenous cultures in Oaxaca, like Zapotecs, Mijes, even the Mazatecs, to compare the use of the mushrooms. And I know that we are going to find some difference between them.
Mm. That's really interesting and exciting. There's so much left to research. The whole thing has been really underdiscovered. So I'm
Yes,
very excited.
yes, it was a lot of work with Wasson, of course, and thanks to that, he became to that and many other things, he became the father of the ethnomycology. But I think that then the ethnomycological work stopped, at least with the psilocybe, or psilocybe, or whatever you pronounce, psilocybe, and then stop the ethnomycological work. Start with
Mm.
many other groups, edible species, edible mushrooms, but the hallucinogenic mushrooms, the magic, the sacred mushrooms were forgotten. So that's why we want to start making scientific work, ethnomycological work, to study what modern techniques this knowledge.
Mm. Yeah, that's brilliant and much needed. I know there's some really cool projects happening around documentation in Oaxaca, and
Yes.
I think probably in other regions as well, which is really great. So just hopeful that that keeps progressing. Um, yeah. Do you have any opinions on functional mushrooms? Or a lot of people are talking about that now, and I'm curious from a mycologist perspective what you believe some of the more beneficial functional mushrooms are.
Yes, although sometimes they exaggerate the properties. For example, in Mexico, they were selling mushrooms as for everything. they were used to cure everything.
Mm,
So that's not true. So you have to look at what is good that mushroom and what can cure, or what is their function in your organism. So, but there is a very good research about that, and I am excited that mushrooms are that people, normal people, are looking to mushrooms because of that. So I am grateful because of that trend that made people to look at mushrooms again, because it was a time that they were forgotten.
mm,
uh, so it's a very good way that the people, normal people, look at the mushrooms again. But to be careful that not all mushrooms function or serve for everything.
agreed. How has it been for you watching this dramatic rise in interest in mushrooms as a professional with a long-standing interest? Just seeing it, blossom. Um,
I love it. I love it. I'm thrilled with that. But at the same time, is I'm sometimes I feel exhausted, very tired, because it's too much work. For example, at the beginning in the university,
mm,
I have one student a year, two students a year. Now I have more than 20 students, and I don't know how to do with all of them. But I still accept him because I don't want to
mm,
say no. So I say yes to everybody that wants to go to volunteer, because I have many of them are undergraduate students
mm,
that they go to my lab only as volunteers. So I put everybody to work in something. So it's very, very exciting. Also, with mushroom fairs, I remember when, for example, in 1985, that we asked for make mushroom exhibitions, and nobody wants it, nobody care, nobody like it, and it was very difficult. We made 19 mushroom exhibitions at that time, and we stopped it because it was too much work to convince people to make it, that
mm,
it was not worth it. Then start the euphoria for mushrooms, and then there are mushroom fairs everywhere. I am organizing or participating this year in 6 mushroom fairs, so it's a
wow.
lot. It's a lot. 5 in my state, in Jalisco state, and this tell you right. So I love
Mm.
it, but it's a lot of work.
uh, that's great. So I'm now interested a little bit in some of the clinical research that's underway. Are you excited about anything research wise, study wise around psilocybin or mycology generally? Something that's upcoming, I guess, outside of what your student is doing with the Mazatec.
Yes, my student is only doing ethnomycological work, so only interviews to know how they are using, for what or why. Now about the clinical research, I am interested in microdoses, so I'm going to talk about something, a little
Mm,
something of microdoses in my talk on tomorrow night. I contact one of the sellers in Mexico that have microdoses, and she contact me with her clients. So we have some interesting information about how the microdoses are used in Mexico, because it was only published in the US and in other parts of the world, but not in Mexico. So I we asked not Mexico? Because all start in Mexico. The use of the and the knowledge of the hallucinogenic mushrooms started in Mexico. So we think that we still have much to do in Mexico about the knowledge and about everything, ethnomycological, clinical, medical, many things in Mexico, not in well, also in other places, but mainly in Mexico.
That's great. Yeah, it's there's so much work left to do, and there's so much history out there that we don't know, or even just current day use. It's fascinating, and so I
Yeah.
think all the excitement is helping bring some funding, right? So probably fantastic fungi. Hopefully, brought a few more funders to the table. Um,
Yes, no, fantastic fungi is fantastic because it opens many ways. So it's very good. So, and also in Mexico, there is now a trend to support more the ethnobiology work.
mm.
So we are taking advantage of that. So to ask for funding for the ethnomycological project of my student.
Oh, that's incredible! Wow. Um,
Mhm.
so this one might be a little funny, but how do you feel about the companies who are trying to remove the psychedelic experience from psilocybin in particular? Any opinions on that?
I don't understand. To remove the
The psychedelic experience from the molecule when ingested.
you mean that just ingest the molecule, not or the
Yeah, let's start there. Yeah, let's start like pure isolate, is what we would call it.
okay.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I'm not against because nobody has, not all of people has the opportunity to participate in a sacred ceremony and to have all the package of the complete package with the
Mm-hmm.
mushroom. So I think if the psilocybin is so good as it seems to be, is a very good way to to use it to take advantage of the just the molecule and to take a part of all the experience, not only using the mushrooms. Also because there are some I don't know how to say in English, charlatans.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
Charlotte,
Yeah.
that are, for example, in Oaxaca state, they are selling the experience, but they are not the true experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so so you have to be very careful if you want to try these mushrooms and to have the
Mm-hmm.
original experience, not to go with charlatans that they sell and they are only doing for tourists and in a very fast way and very different from the original ones. So in that case, or for a person who need it, for example, in terminal illness or for some kind of uh, ailments, that you try only the molecule, the psilocybin, I think that is a very good idea.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's really important as well. Not everybody is going to be able to consume mushrooms. There's a lot of sick people. And also for the clinical data, it's good to have a single variable, I think.
Exactly. That's because if you have the mushrooms, there is a variation of the quantities, variation in the kind of alkaloids that it has. So it's for clinical data, it's very important to have just the molecule and the exact quantities, and that you can reproduce the experiment. So this that is very important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating how many people don't don't agree.
No,
And
I agree completely.
do you have So here's what I was asking first, and it was good we did that one first, though. So what if we remove some of the psychedelic experience from the molecule? So like when you consume it, it's less psychedelic, but so you would modify the molecule to something new, and any kind of opinions on that. So, for instance, people think the healing has to, come from some sort of ordeal. What if there was a way to tweak the molecule so somebody could heal without having that kind of crazy journey?
Okay, okay. Well, that's the point of the microdoses. When you take the microdoses, it's only a very, very small doses that don't you don't experience the magic trip and the spirit or
Mm,
the complete trip, and it's believed, but it still has to do some research about that. That with the microdoses, we only have the benefits without the trip. So if that
mm,
is the true, it is very very good because not all people wants to have the trip because sometimes it's very scary and very difficult for them.
mm-hmm,
So if they only have the benefits through the microdosing, or maybe as just thought that extracting the only the benefits, I don't know if this is possible. I haven't read about that, but to have only the benefits, they say that the psilocybin make more connection in the your neurons, is enhancing the neuroplasticity. That's why you have the benefits. So it could be very 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 nice and very good to have this without the complete experience, that it could be very scary and very not good for all people.
mm. So, based on your pretty tremendous amount of experience in research and teaching, do you see anything in particular, psiloc- how do you pronounce it? Psilocybe? Uh,
Psilocybe. I pronounce psilocybe.
psilocybe, psilocybe species. Is there anything in particular in psilocybe species that you think is under researched?
A lot. I think that a lot of things are under research, starting for the kind on and the quantities of the alkaloids in the different species of of psilocybe, and they are making with the microdose, for example, they take a small piece of the mushroom, the complete mushrooms. So I think that they have to do this with psilocybin, so they can control is exactly what the person is taking, which kind of alkaloid, which quantity of the alkaloid. And yes, I think that there are still many work to do, not only in the medical or clinical work, but also in the taxonomy, to know which species we have. We are working, I am a taxonomist, so I am working with morphology and molecular data to to know the species that are growing in Mexico, and
Mm,
also to know the relationships of these species with other species in old world, so to do the phylogeny. And there are still a lot of work to do in that. So even that the study started in 1955 or 56, uh, 56,
mm,
there are still a lot of work to do in many, many areas.
yeah, it's and I think as technology develops, there's even more to investigate. Right, new horizons keep opening.
Exactly, exactly. We were working with molecules of DNA molecules only with the ITS, then with other markers, and then with one colleague in the US, Print Integer, we are making genomes, complete genomes to study the whole genus. So yes,
Mm.
it's very interesting how the technology is helping to be deep in all the study.
Are you familiar with what's happening in the United States and Oregon with mushrooms?
Yes, I know that they are now allowed to for some provide. Well, I think that the law is ready, but I think that they are starting to make the procedures how to make to the providers to be able to make the psilocybin to the patients or to the subjects to make more research about that. I think that is a very, very, very good thing to do, and I hope that after Oregon, many more states follow. Also in Mexico, they are trying to do that. I am also going to talk about that in my talk tomorrow. That in Mexico, after US provided mushrooms, also Mexico provided, because also it was a very big problem at that time when the hallucinogenic mushrooms were discovered. They were hordes. Well, I don't know if that's the word of hippies. Many, many, many hippies that went to Mexico, and it was a problem for the Mexican government and for Huautla de Jimenez. It was like invasion for the hippies,
Yeah.
and they couldn't control that, so they forbidden the mushrooms. And now the Mexican government, well, so some political parties are trying to legalize the use of mushrooms, or at least that they don't be in the section on the, I don't remember the name of the law, where they are compared to cocaine, heroin, as if they were very bad drugs.
Mm-hmm.
The psilocybin is not a drug because it's not creating addiction, so
Mm-hmm.
it has to be look at it very differently, because it has medical properties, doesn't create addiction, helps to cure addictions like to the alcohol, tabacins. And for example, yesterday I was in a lecture here in Telluride about cocaine persons, cocaine users, and they were working with the administration of psilocybin
Mm-hmm.
to them, and it was wonderful. So I think that in Mexico is starting the way to change the law, and that the
Mm.
mushrooms could be used more openly for medical research and for medical or for scientific studies.
And it's really great that they're picking up on this. We do, people who have been listening to this show for a while know about all the really great clinical data, all the really great anecdotal stories, all the older data. Um, and, this really should be used when we're lobbying our governments to improve laws. Um,
Exactly.
and I'm really happy to hear there's people working on it in Mexico. I haven't been as connected to Mexico as I need to be. I think we have a few, one or two folks from with Mexican roots in our team here, but I need to start digging in more because it sounds fascinating. It's right next door. There's so much cool stuff going on. Um, do you so regarding what's happening in Oregon? So they'll be able. Well, the law goes into effect in January of next year. So
Okay.
yeah, and then there's some slow moving pieces. So implementation might be a little slow, but it'll come. And yeah, so I guess once this comes through, a lot more people are going to start growing these mushrooms at home. In your opinion,
Yes,
we're not talking about the law, but like, how careful do people need to be with contaminations and contaminants when growing? Are there any good guidelines you could share with like keeping safe around cultivation?
well, it's, I think that is just common sense. That if you look that your morals is moldy and is decomposing, and it's just common sense that you, as you grow plants, it's the same as you grow mushrooms. You have to learn about that and to be careful. But there is no danger of contamination at the, if you are growing Psilocybe cubensis, that you are going to obtain Amanita ameribiescens, this
Mm-hmm.
mortal. So it's not worry about that. So
Yeah.
it's I think that just common sense.
Right. Like if there's green or blues or something doesn't look right,
Exactly.
maybe
Sí.
do 3 or 4 before you try to even consume them, just so you see what healthy looks like, or just watch a lot of videos. And
Yes, there's a lot of information on the web, so I think that it is pretty easy to cultivate the
yeah,
hallucinogenic model.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Laura
It's one of
Guzman,
the easier mushrooms to cultivate. So
I wholeheartedly agree. I had to stop. I had to stop. I don't do it anymore. But Laura, I really appreciate you joining us. This has been spectacular. I would love to do this again if you're up for that. And
yes, of
do you want
course, I
to
love it.
share any links or books or articles or anything?
I'm not too much on the web, so I don't have any links out of that. I only want to say that I didn't say a lot of my father when you asked me, and I am very grateful with him. He introduced me with this
Hmm.
life because it's not a work, it's a life, and I love it, and I am very happy.
That's fantastic.
I'm
All
very
right. Well,
grateful.
thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate you sharing that. And it's cool to see a multi-generational mycology happening, and I hope to see more of that as things develop. All right. So until next time, thank you.
Thank you. Thank to you.